Great. Thanks so much, Anna. Hi, everyone. It is super exciting to see you all on Zoom or see some of you on Zoom and see your names lighting up in the chat. As Anna mentioned, I'm Jeremy Rogoff. I'm the co-founder and CEO of KickUp, and just thrilled to be here with you all and with our amazing panel. I'll have Joellen and Dawnette introduce each of them, and we're super excited to have both of you. So, Joellen, do you want to kick us off?
I'm delighted to. Thanks, Jeremy, and welcome everyone to this wonderful opportunity to learn together. I'm excited to hear about the new features. I'm excited to be here with some people that I know and appreciate the work that they've been doing. So, to my Colorado friends, Texas friends, California friends, it's great to see you here. Those of you I haven't met, maybe I'll have a chance to meet you someday. I have had a long history in education, but within the last, maybe couple decades, my focus has really been heavily focused on professional learning designed to advance student learning through coaching, leadership development, supporting teams as they are working in schools. I've been really invested in aligning coaching to school improvement initiatives, and I am just always continuing to learn and grow myself. So thanks for this opportunity to be with you today.
Hello, my name is Dawnette Dierking Wiskur, and I am excited to be here and a little starstruck to be sharing the screen with Joellen. So she has long provided me with inspiration and knowledge in my education journey. I was a classroom teacher for 18 years, and then for the last 11 years have been working in district administration, and the last 8 I have been a professional learning coordinator for the Rockwood School District. So in that role, I work with all of our teachers, whether they are just beginning their journey as a teacher or whether they have been in the profession for many years. I'm always excited about helping them learn and grow with the ultimate goal of providing opportunities for the students in our district. So just excited to be here and share some of the experiences we've had with KickUp, and yeah, like Joellen said, learn from everyone on the panel. So thank you.
Thank you, Dawnette, and thank you, Joellen. We are super excited to have both of you. And really, the purpose of today's event is to share some of the things that we've been working on at KickUp. And the reason we wanted to have Joellen and Dawnette to kick us off is to put some of the things that we've been working on into context. At KickUp, we're not just trying to develop features, we're really trying to solve problems in alignment with our mission. And our mission is to help every educator thrive throughout their career. And over the years, as we've been working with our partners across school districts, a consistent question comes up, and that is, how do we connect the dots between professional learning and impact in the classroom? How do we know if what we're doing is making a difference? And so many district leaders want the answer to this because ultimately we know that teachers make the single biggest impact on student learning. And so our work is on helping to empower district leaders to do that. So I thought a good place for us to start the conversation today is really grounding ourselves in the why. Why is it important to evaluate, assess professional learning? And there's no better person to help us answer that question than Joellen, and Dawnette will help us kind of see that through the lens of a district leader doing this work right now. So Joellen, maybe if you could start by helping us understand, why is it important to evaluate professional learning when there's so many other things that compete for district leaders' time?
It's such a good question and such an important one. And I'm going to start with the bottom line. If district leaders cannot justify the impact of professional learning in the classroom on students, then their investment in professional learning is likely not to be as great, and particularly in this time of tight budgets. So as a professional learning leader, we have an obligation to invest in evaluating the quality, effectiveness, and impact of professional learning. I've learned a few things over the years, and I'll just start with these key points. If we fail to gather data about the quality, effectiveness, and impact of professional learning. What that means is that we're leaning into a few fallacies that are really not true. One is that if people attend professional learning, student learning will automatically increase. We know that's not the case. There's a big gap between participating in professional learning and actual impact in the classroom. Another fallacy is that if our attendees or participants find the professional learning beneficial or say it was worthwhile, that it will in fact change their practice and change what happens for students. That's not the case. It's a false argument. Another one that is, if we spend more on professional learning, we'll get better results. That's not true either. And lastly, if our professional learning is focused on evidence-based practices, that our students will benefit. Friends, those are fallacies. They're not true. We can find out if they are in fact true if we lean into measuring the quality, the impact of our professional learning. And we can do that with a comprehensive evaluation of our professional learning efforts. As a matter of fact, there are really 7 reasons why we want to evaluate in the field of professional learning. Without data, without the kind of evidence that we can gather from practitioners and from students, we're not able to even identify what problem we're attempting to solve with professional learning. So the first reason we want data and evidence that come as a part of a comprehensive evaluation is to be able to identify the problem that we're trying to solve. And then secondly, we use that problem to guide and narrow our planning efforts. We can do a lot of things, and there are many, many, many things school systems around the world have done to improve student success. But the big question is, will those solutions work for us? And if we're not spending sufficient time planning our professional learning in alignment with what we know to be the problem, we may find that some solutions have no place in our system. We also want to know if the professional learning that's available is high quality, meaning does it meet the standards for quality that are provided in the standards for professional learning. And we can use evaluation to benchmark the design of professional learning against those standards. And then we want to know whether or not professional learning is being implemented as it's been planned and designed in alignment with those standards. We can do professional learning. However, if it's not implemented sufficiently and thoroughly, it will not have a chance to have an impact. And then we want to know if it's effective. And by effectiveness, what we're looking at is it changing what educators know, what they are able to do, what they choose to do, what they believe is important to do, and ultimately what they do every day in the classroom? That's a measure of effectiveness, but that is not a measure of impact. And another reason that we want to evaluate professional learning is to know whether or not those changes in educators' knowledge, attitude, skills, aspirations, and behaviors is in fact having an impact on learning experiences in a positive direction for students. Are students seeing the benefit? And the last of the 7 reasons that we evaluate professional learning is to know whether or not our professional learning programs are meeting our expectations for social justice and human rights. Are we in fact providing equitable access to professional learning and sufficient professional learning in the areas where we have the greatest need? So those are the reasons, my friends, why it's so important for us to evaluate professional learning, to even know what kind of professional learning to do, what it looks like, how it's shaped, how it's implemented, how it's changing educator practice, how it's changing student learning, and whether or not we're meeting our students' needs in an equitable fashion. So I'll leave it there.
That's a great way to open us up. Dawnette, maybe you could pick up on that and share how you have applied some of the principles that Joellen has shared and a little bit about your journey in Rockwood when it comes to the why of evaluating professional learning.
Yeah, so we probably, I mean, these conversations became really in depth for us probably about 8 years ago as I came into this position. And, one of the things that Joellen said that really stuck with me was participation to impact. And that's what we found, that we were doing a really good job of measuring participation. We were doing a really good job of measuring the quality of the professional learning we were dealing, or delivering. But what we weren't really getting were those other pieces. What impact was the professional learning having on students? What impact, were teachers changing practice, or were they coming and were they enjoying the professional learning and they were really, like, oh, that was a good time, and then not really implementing those things in the classroom. So for us, one of the things that drew us to KickUp and changing the way we looked at our professional learning was, okay, it's beyond we still want high quality professional learning. We still want people to, enjoy the experience, but what do they need then to make sure that it gets implemented? And then how do we measure the impact that it has on students? And, it's still an ongoing journey. We hit a few bumps in there along the way with a pandemic. And then as many of us have seen, we've had new challenges. We hired in our district, we hired around 150 new teachers this past year with all varying levels of ability. And so really then we need to get them up to speed, implementation, and continuing to measure, what do they need to know? What do they know already? And so what are we doing there? So that's kind of, like I said, many of the things you said really, where we're trying to get, we're still not there yet, but we're really looking at how can we make sure when we're delivering professional learning that it is then having an impact on classroom instruction, that it's impacting, because, we have a lot of students now who maybe there are some gaps in learning, maybe there are some struggles, and it's really important that we're providing that high quality instruction for them.
It's been so encouraging, Dawnette, to see Rockwood's journey over these many years in thinking about professional learning from, something that is done in a moment in time to something that is continuous, ongoing, that you're asking these questions about what is the impact that our professional learning is having. And it's exciting to see now that you have some of the tools to be able to start to answer those questions. Like you said, it's an ongoing journey. I wonder, Joellen, if you could maybe speak to something that we often hear from the partners that we work with, which is time. How do you find time for professional learning? If we know it's important, we know why it's important to measure it. How do you solve the dilemma of finding the time in the day to do this work?
It is a big challenge. And years ago, Learning Forward published some guidelines about time for professional learning. And we were bold. We said at that time that we expected every educator to be engaged in professional learning at least 20% of their work time. That's a crazy number. And if you stop to think about professional learning in the more traditional way, it's never going to happen. That would basically mean sending kids home one day a week and educators spending one of those days involved in learning. But let me just offer a few recommendations and then encourage you to go look for Establishing Time for Professional Learning, a monograph that we put together to help districts figure this out. First, start with what's available. Look at all of the time that is available where educators are coming together or could come together to engage in learning. And that does not have to be formal training. When we have team meetings or have PLCs or have faculty meetings or have department team meetings or grade level meetings. These are all brilliant opportunities for learning to take place if each of those gatherings has as a focus a learning outcome for the adults. And when we establish that, let's just say it's a grade level meeting, fourth grade team coming together for their weekly curriculum planning session on literacy. Well, we can turn that into a learning opportunity by establishing a common area of focus for every educator who meets in that team. Perhaps it's how do we tailor this week's lesson plans to better meet the needs of our CLD students. And so as educators are working together with that question that's driving some of their thinking, they can be surfacing and making explicit what they're thinking, what they're willing to try. They may be pulling in resources as they're making decisions about their planning. And all of that can be constituted as professional learning. So we have many, many, many opportunities in the existing time schedule to create more professional learning that is identified as a learning opportunity if we elevate it with a learning focus. And then, of course, we can adjust our school day schedules to find more time for that common planning. And we can adjust our school year schedules to find time for teachers and school administrators to gather in learning communities. Those can happen. It can happen through state policy, local policy, but recognizing that if we fail to use what's available first, effectively and efficiently, we're not likely to get more time. So I always advise districts to do a time audit. Start with what's available. Start with figuring out how that time is being used. Perhaps one of the greatest abuses I saw of time, and I'm not going to say where, I will just acknowledge it was a middle school, and teachers had every day in their schedule 100 minutes of free time, and they considered it free time. And I want to tell you, the school system did not consider it free time. They had planned for that time to be team planning time, addressing student learning needs, also individual planning time. But when I queried teachers about why they weren't meeting, they talked about that as being free time. And to me, there's a violation right there of what was intended and what's happening. So get a handle on what's available, get a handle on how it's intended to be used, and start there.
So I really, time, I think, is something we hear all, in our feedback. I need more time to implement. I need more time to have impact. And so we have a district professional development committee that has representatives from every school. And as we were meeting, that's one of the things that they were saying. There's so much, the kids need so much, we need so much new learning, we have to have more time. And so, using the feedback that we got from KickUp, using those discussions, using conversations around what is high quality professional learning, we were able to, just a few weeks ago, our school board approved the addition of professional learning days to the calendar next year. But I also, even that's not enough. We know that one of the questions we ask in our evaluation is, what additional support do you need to implement this learning? And, is that coaching? Is that, just time with your PLC? Speaking of middle schools, I'm currently working with a middle school where I'm embedding on their team days during their team time. I'm embedding, and I'm just at the school all day meeting with each team, and we're talking about some building-wide professional learning that they're doing. And then, working from there, like, what additional supports do you need? How can we help? And so really, by, like you said, being creative about where we're finding that time, but also being committed as a district to expanding time when we can. And we really are beginning to see some positive movement on implementing our professional learning practices for sure.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of time, I wish we had more of it. We have just scratched the surface, but we're going to transition to our first demonstration. So I want to thank Joellen for joining us for this section of KickUp Innovations. And for anyone in the audience that will be attending Learning Forward National in Denver next month, you can think of this as an appetizer, because she will be leading a 1-hour session about connecting feedback to instruction to drive higher student achievement and lower teacher turnover. So details about that will be put in the chat. You can search for it as you register for sessions. But I would like to thank Joellen again, and Dawnette's going to hang on and talk about their use of KickUp, and in particular, the use of our new dashboards feature. So for that, I will hand it over back to Anna.